Hey everybody, welcome back to 90 and Out. I'm your host, Timothy Holt, and today we're continuing with chapter 15 of the Gospel according to Mark. I'll be reading from the New King James Version. Today, as I normally do for these videos, you can pick up your favorite particular version and read along if you like. I highly recommend it. It's pretty exciting what's going on right now. We're coming to the close of Mark's account with only 16 chapters. It's pretty short. We're on chapter 15. So we're definitely getting to the climax of what's going on here. Previously, we were introduced to Jesus of Nazareth as an adult. He's caused some commotion. He's talked in some riddles. He's gathered a massive following. And right now, he's ate his Last Supper with his disciples, and this guy named Judas got paid off to betray him. And Jesus is alone, facing death, basically a death sentence. So let's look at 15 and pick up where we left off. Immediately in the morning, the chief priests held a council with the elders and scribes and the whole council, and they bound Jesus, led him away, and delivered him to Pilate. Then Pilate asked him, "Are you king of the Jews?" He answered and said to him, "It is as you say." And the chief priests accused him of many things, but he answered nothing. Then Pilate asked him again, saying, "Do you answer nothing? See how many things they testify against you?" But Jesus still answered nothing, so that Pilate marveled. Now at the feast he was accustomed to releasing one prisoner to them, whomever they requested. And there was one named Barabbas who was chained with his fellow rebels. They had committed murder in the rebellion. Then the multitude, crying aloud, began to ask him to do just as he had always done for them. But Pilate answered them, saying, "Do you want me to release to you the King of the Jews?" For he knew that the chief priests had handed him over because of envy. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd so that he should rather release Barabbas to them. Pilate answered and said to them again, "What then do you want me to do with him, whom you call the King of the Jews?" So they cried aloud again, "Crucify him!" Then Pilate said to them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they cried all the more, "Crucify him!" So Pilate wanted to gratify the crowd, released Barabbas to them, and he delivered Jesus, after he had scourged him, to be crucified. Then the soldiers led him away into the hall called Praetorium, and they called together the whole garrison, and they clothed him with purple, and they twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and began to salute him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Then they struck him on the head with a reed and spat on him, and bowing the knee they worshipped him. And when they had mocked him, they took the purple off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him out to be crucified. Then they compelled a certain man, Simon of Caesarea, the follower of Alexander and Rufus, as he was coming out of the country and passing by, to bear his cross. And they brought him to a place, Golgotha, which is translated, place of the skull. Then they gave him wine mingled with myrrh to drink, but he did not take it. And when they crucified him, they divided his garments, casting lots for them to determine what every man should take. Now it was the third hour, and they crucified him, and the inscription of his accusation was written above, "The King of the Jews. With him, they also crucified two robbers, one on his right and one on his left. So the scripture was fulfilled, which says, "And he was numbered with the transgressors. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads and saying, 'Ah, you who destroyed the temple and built it in 3 days, save yourself, and come down from the cross.' Likewise, the chief priests also, mocking him themselves with the scribes, and said, 'He saved others, himself he cannot save. Let the Christ, the King of the Jews, descend now from the cross, that we may see and believe.' Even those who were crucified with him reviled him. Now when the 6th hour had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, 'Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani,' which is translated, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of those who stood by, when they heard that, said, "Look, he's calling for Elijah." Then someone ran and filled a sponge full of sour wine, put it on a reed, and offered it to him to drink, saying, "Let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come and take him down." And Jesus cried out with a loud voice and breathed his last. Then the veil of the temple was torn from two from top to bottom. So when the centurion who stood opposite him saw that he cried out like this and breathed his last, he said, "Surely, truly this man was the Son of God." There were also women looking on from afar, among whom were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the Less, and of Joseph, and Salome, who also followed him and ministered to him when he was in Galilee, and many other women who came up with him from Jerusalem, to Jerusalem. Now when evening had come, because it was the preparation day, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a prominent council member, who was himself waiting for the kingdom of God, coming and taking courage, went into Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Pilate marveled that he was already dead, and summoning the centurion, he asked him if he had been dead for some time. So when he found out from the centurion, he granted the body to Joseph. Then he bought fine linen, took him down, and wrapped him in the linen, and he laid him in a tomb which had been hewn out of the rock, and rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. And Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, observed where he was laid. Thus concludes chapter 15 of the epic gospel of Mark, according to Mark. So, wow. We've reached the climax. Chapter 16 is the closing of the book. Stay tuned for that reading. But wow, he's dead. What sticks out is Pilate marveled that he was already dead, because it didn't take him very long to die. Most people dying of crucifixion were on public spectacle for quite some time. They essentially died of suffocation, asphyxiation. Many people have done videos and research on that. Check those out. But it's interesting what happened here. If this is where the story ends, it would be horrible. It'd be wretched. It'd be despicable. It'd be a major atrocity. An innocent man brutally executed for crimes he didn't commit. But thankfully, the story doesn't end here. We have chapter 16 to pick it up with in our next video. So give a thumbs up, subscribe, and tune in for the epic conclusion in our next installment. Thank you. Don't take my word for it. Pick it up, read it for yourself.